We talk about engineers like they appeared yesterday. Silicon Valley, skyscrapers, space stations, clean rooms and white coats. But stand in a dried riverbed in Kenya, year 2011, and you see rocks that rewrite the story. Rocks with scars, deliberate strikes. Stone hammered against stone 3.3 million years ago. Nobody with a smartphone was there. Nobody even human was there. The textbook said tools started with us, with Homo. They were wrong. Eroded cuts, hidden layers just waiting. They spread out. Survey for an hour before tea time. Someone radios in. Strange stones on the surface. Harmond examines them. The scars are organized, not random. These rocks have been hit against each other, napping, chipping flakes away to make a sharp edge. Based on the geology, these artifacts have to be at least 2.7 million years old. No champagne that night, but they are very happy. They return in 2012 for a full excavation. They name the site Lomekwi 3. They dig 13 square meters, find 149 artifacts total, 20 well-preserved pieces in situ, buried in undisturbed sediment. They match a flake to its core, proof someone made the tool right there and discarded it. The team uses magnetostratigraphy. They measure magnetic minerals in the volcanic ash layers. Those minerals record the Earth's magnetic field like a tape recorder. They cross-reference known magnetic reversals. The date comes back, 3.33 million to 3.11 million years ago. Published in Nature, May 21st, 2015. The Lomekwi tools predate the previous record holder, the Oldowan industry, by 700,000 years. That gap is longer than the entire span from Neanderthals to now. These are the oldest stone tools ever discovered. The announcement rewrites human evolution. Her fossil skeleton, found in Ethiopia, dates to 3.2 million years ago, or maybe Kenyanthropus platyops. A skull of that species, 3.3 million years old, was found in 1999 about 1 kilometer from Lomekwi 3. A tooth and skull bone were discovered a few hundred meters away. An unidentified tooth sits 100 meters from the tool site. Someone without a modern human brain looked at stone and saw possibility, saw that one rock could change another rock, saw that the changed rock could do something useful. That leap, that moment of abstract thought, happened before our genus walked the planet. Requires dexterity, requires understanding stone fracture properties. The Lomekwi technique is more direct. Place a stone on a flat anvil rock. Strike it with a hammerstone, or grip a rock with both hands and bash it against an anvil. The resulting tools are large. Some cores weigh multiple kilograms. The flakes are thick. The hammerstones show battering marks. Experiments by Harmon's team reproduced the technique. They confirmed that the scars on the Lomekwi artifacts match this anvil method. The team calls it Lomekwian technology, a distinct tradition, older than anything in the archaeological record. Conventional thinking said sophisticated toolmaking came with savanna grasslands, with climate change that drove the evolution of large game herds. Lomekwi flips that script. These toolmakers lived in partial woodland. They adapted technology to their environment, not the other way around. 2 bone fragments from antelope-sized animals show cut marks from a sharp stone blade. Percussion marks from smashing bones to access marrow. No tools were found at Dakika, but the marks are there. Someone used stone to butcher meat. Lomekwi tools could have done that work. They could have processed plant foods, cracked nuts, stripped bark, dug tubers. The toolkit expands what is edible. More calories, more nutrients. Survival advantage. That advantage does not wait for Homo to arrive. It starts here, 3.3 million years ago, with beings we might not even recognize. 15. By Harmond, Lewis, Feibel, and their international team, as well as verified archaeological data from the Smithsonian Institution's Human Origins Program, and peer-reviewed studies in quaternary science reviews. Now back to the information. Then Gona, Ethiopia, 2.6 million years ago, Oldowan tools and layers dated by volcanic tuffs, then more sites across East Africa, Southern Africa, eventually spreading to Eurasia. By 1.8 million years ago, Homo erectus carries Oldowan technology to Java. By 1.6 million years ago, it reaches northern China. The simple chopper, the flaked core with a sharpened edge, becomes ubiquitous. Homo habilis uses it. Homo erectus inherits it. For over 1 million years, Oldowan is the standard. 12 to 20 centimeters long, bifacially flaked. Some are rough, utilitarian, others are exquisitely crafted, almost artistic. The toolmaker envisions the final form and imposes it on the stone. That requires planning, mental templates, executive function. The Acheulean spreads, Southern Africa by 1.7 million years ago, India shortly after, Europe by 800,000 years ago as Homo erectus moves north. Ethiopia, 2023, Garba 4, part of the Melka Kunture complex in the highlands near the Awash River, 50 kilometers south of Addis Ababa, altitude over 2,000 meters. Excavators in 1981 find a child's jawbone. For decades, debate rages. Is it Homo habilis or Homo erectus? 2023, the team led by Margherita Musi at Sapienza University of Rome uses synchrotron light at the European Synchrotron Radiation Facility in Grenoble. They image the internal morphology of the unerupted teeth, resolution down to a few microns. They compare the tooth data to large samples of habilis and erectus. The mandible belongs to Homo erectus, dated to approximately 2 million years ago, one of the earliest erectus specimens ever found. The overlying layer, dated to 1.95 million years ago, contains Acheulean hand axes and cleavers, the earliest known Acheulean technology, 200,000 years earlier than previous finds at lower altitude sites. Published in Science, October 12, 2023. Homo erectus at Garba 4 used both technologies, first Oldowan, then Acheulean. The highland ecosystem, different from lowland savannas, may have driven the innovation. New resources demanded new tools. Isotope analysis of a molar from Dan 5 shows a diet dominated by plants from trees and shrubs, or broad spectrum omnivory. The toolmakers lived near ancient rivers, riverine woodlands next to open habitats, stable isotope values, lithic distributions, faunal remains. Everything points to flexibility. Homo erectus did not abandon Oldowan when Acheulean appeared. The species used both, concurrently for hundreds of thousands of years. Simple choppers for quick tasks, hand axes for heavy processing. The right tool for the job, that is engineering. The longest, earlier Stone Age sequence, about 2 meters deep, sits in excavation 1, currently 30 meters in from the cave mouth. Micromorphological analysis. Fourier transform infrared microspectroscopy. Intact sediments examined at microscopic scale. Burned bone fragments, ashed plant remains, surface discoloration typical of combustion. No signs of transport by wind, water, or wildfire. The burning happened in situ, inside the cave. Dated to approximately 1 million years ago using magnetostratigraphy, cosmogenic isotope dating, and radioactive element measurements. Published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, April 2nd, 2012. Consistent with a controlled fire. Several stone artifacts from the same layer display thermal fractures from heating during tool production. Someone carried fire into that cave, maintained it, used it. Homo erectus, almost certainly. The impact is staggering. Fire for warmth in a region that can get cold at night. Fire for light in the deep cave interior, enabling activities after dark. Fire to keep predators away. Hyenas, leopards, saber-toothed cats, all deterred by flame and smoke. Fire for cooking. Raw meat is harder to chew, harder to digest. Cooking gelatinizes starches, denatures proteins, kills pathogens, unlocks more calories and nutrients from the same food, supports larger brains, smaller guts. The expensive tissue hypothesis. Homo erectus fossils from 1.8 million years ago show smaller teeth, smaller jaws, compared to Homo habilis. Less need for heavy chewing. Evidence suggests dietary shifts toward higher quality, easier to process foods. Cooking fits that picture. At least 3 are edible. Olive, wild barley, wild grape. Small burned flint fragments cluster in specific spots, not evenly distributed. Geographic information system analysis maps their spatial distribution. The pattern suggests hearth locations, invisible hearths. No ash piles survive, but the burned microartifacts mark where fires burned. Thermoluminescence dating confirms exposure to high heat. Published in Science, April 30th, 2004. It was a technology passed down, maintained, refined. The hominins there knew how to make fire at will. Fatty, succulent meat, rich in protein and omega fatty acids, brain food. The researchers used geochemical methods, X-ray microspectroscopy. They measure changes in tooth enamel crystal size caused by heating. At 780,000 years ago, someone cooked fish, kept the temperature below 500 degrees Celsius. Steaming or baking, not grilling, retains the fatty acids, easier to digest, more nutrients absorbed. Published in Nature Ecology and Evolution, November 14th, 2022. This pushes definitive evidence of cooking back 610,000 years from the previous record of 170,000 years ago, held by early Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. Cave deposits dated between 700,000 and 200,000 years ago, layers of ash, burned animal bones, evidence of hearths debated for decades. Some analysis in 2001 by Goldberg's team suggested the blackish layers were manganese staining, not fire, water lane sediments, transported organic matter. But further studies in 2014 using advanced X-ray diffraction found burned bones associated with burned flint, no in situ combustion features, but evidence of fire use. The picture is messy, contested, incomplete, but fire is there. By 100,000 years ago, the signal is universal. Every Neanderthal site, every early Homo sapiens site. Fire is ubiquitous, not optional, essential. Fire becomes culture. The campfire becomes the center of social life. Stories, planning, tool maintenance, food sharing, extended daylight. Richard Wrangham's cooking hypothesis proposes that Homo erectus was adapted to cooked food nearly 2 million years ago. The anatomy fits. Smaller teeth, smaller guts, larger brains. The evidence from Wonderwork supports that timeline. Fire control that early would explain the anatomical changes. It would explain the spread of erectus out of Africa into colder climates. It would explain the success of the species, which persisted for over 1.5 million years across 3 continents. Brushwood frames covered with skins or branches. Debated, contested, but the pattern is there. Bilzingsleben, Germany, 370,000 years ago. Bone and stone arrangements suggesting windbreaks or shelters. Olduvai Gorge, Tanzania, 1.8 million years ago. Stone circles at site decay. Debate rages whether they are natural or cultural. If cultural, they would be the oldest known constructed shelters. 50 stones arranged in a rough circle, 3 to 4 meters in diameter. Mary Leakey interpreted them as a foundation for a windbreak. Others argue they are geological features, no consensus. But the idea is planted. Early hominins manipulated their environment, built structures, created microclimates. Solution, cooking. Problem, limited tools. Solution, make more, better, specialized. Each solution requires foresight, planning, the ability to delay gratification. Spend time making a hand axe now, benefit from it over months or years. Carry fire carefully, maintain it, use it when needed. That is delayed reward, that is executive function. That is the prefrontal cortex at work. Homo erectus had a brain volume of 800 to 1,000 cubic centimeters, larger than habilis, smaller than sapiens. But size is not everything. Neural organization matters, connectivity, the ability to model future scenarios and choose actions accordingly. Erectus had that. The tools prove it, the fire proves it, the spread across continents proves it. Thousands of animal bones, cut marks from stone tools, Homo erectus or late Homo habilis, bones from multiple species, elephant, giraffe, antelope, pigs, hippo, butchery marks, percussion marks, marrow extraction, meat consumption, but also evidence of carnivore activity, tooth marks. The hominins had early access to carcasses, but they competed with hyenas, lions, saber-toothed cats. Scavenging, hunting, or both? Likely both. Opportunistic. Flexible. Take what you can get. Use tools to process it faster. Get out before the big predators arrive. Fire later becomes another tool in that competition. Smoke and flame keep carnivores at bay, allow longer processing times, more efficient extraction of nutrients. Homo erectus had significantly better access to carcasses than earlier hominins at FLK Zinj, early access to flesh and marrow. This suggests improved hunting or scavenging strategies, better tools, better coordination, possibly fire to manage the environment, drive game, clear brush, create landscapes that favor hunting. All speculation, but the trajectory is clear. Erectus becomes more efficient, more capable, more dominant. Gona, Ethiopia, local ILA, 2C, 2.34 million years ago. Stone tool assemblages showing considerable skill, planning depth, manual dexterity, raw material selectivity. The toolmaker knows where to find good stone, transports it to the site, chooses the right core, strikes at the correct angle, produces multiple usable flakes. Each flake is a tool. Some are retouched, sharpened further. This is not random. This is taught. Demonstration, practice, feedback, social learning. Someone watches an expert napstone, then tries it themselves, makes mistakes, learns, improves. That requires patience, language maybe, at least gesture, shared attention, theory of mind, the ability to understand that another being has knowledge you lack, that you can acquire that knowledge by observation and instruction. Nearly complete Homo erectus skeleton. Male, estimated age at death between 8 and 11 years old. Modern human-like body proportions, long legs, short arms relative to torso, adaptations for walking and running long distances, narrow pelvis, smaller rib cage. The body of an endurance hunter, built to walk 20 kilometers a day, forage, track game, cover territory. The skull shape suggests vocal anatomy closer to modern humans than to earlier hominins, though not identical. Could Turkana boys speak? Unknown. But the groundwork is there. Larynx position, thoracic control, breathing patterns needed for sustained vocalization. Language may not be full-blown, but communication is advancing. Modern human childhood is prolonged, extended learning period, dependence on adults for years. Erectus childhood may have been shorter, less time to learn, but the technology still transmits. The fire still passes from generation to generation. How? Observation, imitation, close social bonds, small group sizes, everyone knows everyone. If you want to survive, you learn the technology. No choice. Evidence from multiple sites shows Homo erectus cared for old and weak individuals. Dmanisi, Georgia, 1.8 million years ago, skull D3500, an old adult, almost all teeth lost long before death, jawbone resorbed. This individual could not chew hard foods, yet they survived for years after losing their teeth. Someone fed them pre-chewed food, soft food, cooked food, if fire was available. That is care. That is compassion. That is social structure. You do not abandon the old. They have knowledge, experience. They remember where water flows in droughts, where game migrates. They teach the young. They are valuable. Keeping them alive is adaptive. Nyayanga, 2.9 million years ago. Cut marks on hippo bones. Someone eats big game. Homo erectus appears around 2 million years ago. Adopts Oldowan, then invents Acheulean. 1.7 million years ago, hand axes spread. Fire control by 1 million years ago, confirmed at Wonderwork. 790,000 years ago, cooking fish at Gesher Benot Yaakov. By 400,000 years ago, fire is everywhere. By 200,000 years ago, Homo sapiens appears in Africa. Modern anatomy, modern brain. But the foundation is laid long before. The engineering tradition is millions of years old. Clothing, probably, though fabric and leather rarely survive. Containers, baskets, skin bags, gourds, wooden tools, digging sticks, spears. All engineering, all problem solving, all cumulative culture. Each generation builds on the last. Not much, tiny increments. But over 1 million years, tiny increments compound into civilization. We did not spring from the savannah, fully formed with language and fire. We did not wait for Homo sapiens to invent technology. The journey is deeper, older, stranger. Beings who looked nothing like us, with brains half our size, figured out how to change their world. They looked at a rock and saw a future. They looked at fire and saw control. They looked at a carcass and saw meals for days if they could just cut through the hide. So they made tools. They tended flames. They worked together. They taught their children. They cared for their elders. And slowly, painfully, over unimaginable stretches of time, they built the foundation for everything that came after. Nature Journal, May 21st, 2015. Harmon et al. On Lomekwi tools. Science Journal, October 12th, 2023. Musi et al. On Garba 4, Homo erectus and Acheulean emergence. Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, April 2nd, 2012. Berna, Goldberg, Chazan et al. On Wonderwork Cave Fire Evidence. Nature Ecology and Evolution, November 14th, 2022. On Gesher Benot Yaakov, Fish Cooking. Quaternary Science Reviews, 2021. On Wonderwork Cave Dating. Smithsonian Institution Human Origins Program Databases, University of Toronto, Hebrew University, Stony Brook University, Sapienza University, Boston University research teams. These are not popular science summaries. These are the primary sources. Now back to the story. Northern China, by 1.6 million years ago, carries Oldowan technology. Later, Acheulean follows, but not everywhere. In East Asia, Acheulean does not dominate. Choppers and flake tools remain common. Regional variation, local adaptation, different environments, different toolkits. That is sophistication. Harsh winters. Fire becomes critical. Atapuerca, Spain. Grandolina site, 800,000 years ago. Homo antecessor, possibly an erectus descendant. Stone tools. Butchered animal bones. Possibly butchered human bones. Cannibalism, if the interpretation holds. Harsh times, desperate measures, or ritual. We do not know, but humans are there in Europe, surviving. Larger brains, more sophisticated tools, wooden spears from Schoningen, Germany, 300,000 years ago, 8 complete spears carved from spruce trunks, over 2 meters long, balanced for throwing, found with butchered horse bones, coordinated hunts. Groups of hunters drive horses into a marsh, throw spears, process the kills. This is engineering, weapon design, aerodynamics before the word exists, center of gravity, point hardness, shaft flexibility, all empirically tested, all refined over generations. Requires planning multiple steps ahead, requires fine motor control. Neanderthals bury their dead, care for injured, use fire habitually, hunt big game in coordinated groups, make symbolic objects, personal ornaments, cave art, debated, but likely. They are fully human in cognition, just a different branch. 300,000 years ago, skulls with modern facial features, but archaic brain cases, Florisbad, South Africa. 260,000 years ago, Homo kibish, Ethiopia. 195,000 years ago, anatomically modern skulls. By 100,000 years ago, Sapiens has the full package. Modern anatomy, modern behavior, blade tools, long standardized flakes struck from cylindrical cores, bone tools, harpoons, needles, awls, beads, ochre, art, symbolic thought, language, fully developed, abstract reasoning, recursive thought, metaphor, music, ritual, everything that makes us us. The stone tool tradition is 3.3 million years old. The fire tradition is 1 million years old. The hunting tradition is at least 1.8 million years old. Sapiens takes those foundations and accelerates. Innovation speeds up. Regional diversity explodes. By 50,000 years ago, Sapiens spreads out of Africa, reaches Australia by 65,000 years ago, Europe by 45,000 years ago, the Americas by at least 15,000 years ago, possibly earlier. Everywhere Sapiens goes, megafauna die, mammoths, giant sloths, saber-toothed cats, diprotodons, moas. Coincidence? Unlikely. Sapiens is an apex predator, efficient, adaptable, relentless, armed with spears, atlatls, eventually bows, coordinated, strategic. We hunt large animals to extinction, not malice, just efficiency. Fertile Crescent, wheat and barley, sheep and goats, Yangtze River, rice, Mesoamerica, maize, New Guinea, taro. Independently, repeatedly, humans domesticate plants and animals. Settle down, build villages, cities, states, empires. Writing, mathematics, metallurgy, bronze, iron, steel. The acceleration is exponential, from stone tools to silicon chips in 3.3 million years. But the first 3 million are slow, patient, incremental. People ask when humans became human. Wrong question. Humanity is not a switch, it is a gradient. Lamechwi toolmakers had a spark of it, Turkana had more, Neanderthals had nearly all of it. We have it fully expressed, but the capacity, the potential, the cognitive architecture that builds over millions of years. Each species adds a piece. Erectus adds fire, long-distance walking, meat-heavy diets, rudimentary language maybe. Heidelbergensis adds coordinated hunting, wooden spears, burial. Neanderthals add prepared core tools, ritual, art. Sapiens adds explosive innovation, symbolic complexity, global spread. It is cumulative, collaborative even if you count interbreeding. Neanderthal DNA in non-African sapiens, Denisovan DNA in Melanesians. We are a blend, a hybrid lineage carrying genes and knowledge from multiple source populations. That makes us stronger, more adaptable. But that hand in that brain saw a problem and solved it. That is engineering, that is human, or proto-human, or whatever term fits beings on the path to us. 15. Processing a kill, roasting meat, cracking bones for marrow, children playing in the firelight, elders sitting close to the flames, safe from the predators outside, safe from the cold. That scene is 1 million years old, Homo erectus, not us, but close enough to recognize. They had the same problems, cold, hunger, predators, darkness. They solved them with technology, fire, tools, cooperation. That is the human story. Not the story of Homo sapiens, the story of the lineage, the 3 million year engineering project that produced us. To see fire and imagine safety, to see a problem and imagine a solution, then to act, test, fail, refine, succeed, pass it on. That ability is ancient, older than our species, older than our genus, old as the first stone struck against stone in a dried riverbed in Kenya 3.3 million years ago. For every fossil, 1 million individuals lived and died and left nothing. The story we can tell is fragmentary, full of gaps, but the gaps are shrinking. Lamechwi in 2011, Wonderwork confirmed in 2012, Gesher Benot Yaakov, fish cooking in 2022, Garba 4 Erectus with dual technologies in 2023. Every decade, new sites, new methods, synchrotron imaging. Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy, magnetostratigraphy, cosmogenic dating, genetic analysis, stable isotopes, micromorphology. We squeeze more information from the same dirt. We see patterns invisible to earlier researchers. The story becomes clearer, richer, stranger. Small innovations stacking over deep time. We benefit from millions of years of prior work. Every stone tool tradition, every fire starting technique, every hunting strategy, every recipe, every story. We inherit it. We did not earn it. We were born into it. Our job is to add our piece, our innovations, our solutions, and pass them on. That is the engineering tradition, 3.3 million years old and counting. The evidence keeps mounting. Swartkrans Cave, South Africa. Number 3 deposits dated to 1.5 to 1 million years ago. Burnt bone fragments across 17 excavation squares. Consistent burning temperatures, not from wildfires, from controlled flames. Brain and Sillen documented this in the 1980s, debated, questioned, but the bones are there. Someone burned them deliberately. Another data point. Another site where Erectus or an Erectus contemporary managed fire. The string disappears, but the toothware remains. Published in multiple paleoanthropology journals. Evidence that Erectus did not just use their hands. They augmented their bodies with tools and materials, extended their reach, multiplied their strength. That is engineering at its most fundamental. 285,000 years ago. Chunks of ochre with grinding facets. What for? Body decoration, possibly. Social signaling, group identity, or hide processing. Ochre mixed with fat makes leather supple, preserves it, makes it workable, or adhesive production. Ochre added to tree resin strengthens the bond for hafting stone points to wooden shafts. All of these uses are documented ethnographically. All are technology. All leave traces in the archaeological record. Erectus had ochre. Erectus had the cognitive capacity to use it for practical purposes, symbolic purposes, or both. Probably something between ape vocalizations and human speech, proto-language, small vocabulary, simple syntax, enough to coordinate hunts, enough to teach tool-making, enough to share information about distant resources, water sources, fruiting trees, game movements. You do not need full language for that. Gestures, demonstrations, simple words. Enough. Over 10,000 kilometers, through deserts, across mountains, along coastlines, crossing rivers. That requires planning, maps in the mind, memory of routes, knowledge of seasons, when to move, where to go, what to bring. You cannot transmit that information without communication, rich communication. Maybe not language as we know it, but something powerful, something effective, something that allowed groups separated by thousands of kilometers to maintain the same tool traditions for hundreds of thousands of years. That is cultural transmission on a scale that demands explanation. The longest running tool tradition in human history, longer than any modern technology, longer than agriculture, longer than writing, longer than cities. 1 million years of making the same tool with regional variations but core consistency. How? Teaching, demonstration, practice, correction, generation after generation. Without writing, without diagrams, just hands and eyes and minds. That is engineering culture. That is knowledge transmission. That is technology as tradition. Experimental replication refines understanding of the techniques. Other sites are surveyed. More Lamequian tools may exist waiting in the ground, or older ones. The record is incomplete. The search continues. Sonia Harmond, Jason Lewis, their teams, they keep digging, keep analyzing, keep publishing. That is how science works. Slow, methodical, peer-reviewed. Build the case, present the evidence, defend the interpretation, refine or discard as new data arrives. No dogma, no final answers, just better and better approximations of truth. Did change it, and in changing it, they changed themselves. The tools shape the users as much as the users shape the tools. Bigger brains favored better tools favored bigger brains. Feedback loop, coevolution. Technology and biology intertwined. That process, that spiral, that is what made us. Not a single inventor, not a single species, but a lineage, a family tree of toolmakers, fire tenders, problem solvers, stretching back over 3 million years. The one that started when the first hominin picked up a stone, looked at it carefully, and struck it against another stone to make something new, something useful, something that changed everything. From cave shelters to space stations, all of it built on the foundation laid by beings who died millions of years before we were born. Beings whose names we will never know, whose faces we will never see, but whose legacy we carry in every tool we use, every fire we light, every problem we solve. They were humanity's first engineers, and we are their heirs.